and welcome to this lovely stream of arts and fun and animation and rigging or comp or something animation related. I don't know. Um, you know how my streams are usually. I plan something and then somebody comes in the chat and is like, "Hey, I need to know that thing." So then I change what I'm doing because it's important to being flexible. So hi everybody. For those who don't know my my streams, usually my name is Marie-Ève, but I usually go by Z on the internet because it's shorter, and I have a French name, and it's very hard to say my name most of the time if you're not French. So yeah, you can call me Z, Mel, or Marie-Ève, or something alongside these. It'll be fine. So yeah, so what I do in life is I work at Toon Boom, and I also have my own little YouTube channel where I teach people about animation because animation is fun. And today, what I have cooked up for you is a lot of things. So let's see where this next hour is going to take us. So like I said, I usually have plans, but feel free to break and destroy all these plans with any questions that you have in the chat. It'll be my pleasure to try answer those as much as I can. As long as it's not script related, because I forgot everything about that when I stopped making 3D animation years ago. Okay, so I'm going to start the day today with a very cool tool that is called that. And a lot of people don't actually know about that tool, and I think it's sad. So that tool should be known a bit more. And I'm going to use this beautiful Christmas animation I'm making because it's Christmas time soon, whether you want it or not. I won't have Christmas music playing, so don't worry, it'll be all fine. But yeah, so what I'm going to show you is this feature. After that, I'm going to check the chat because now there's too much thing in the chat and I cannot follow it anymore, but I'll follow it in a moment. So what I'm going to show you is a tool that is useful for hand-drawn animation mostly, but I think you can also use it for cutouts and comp. So it's called the Mini Playback. So perhaps you guys have seen that thing called Mini Playback and you've been like, I don't know what it is, and you've never investigated it. But it's worth it to investigate that thing because it's pretty cool. So let's roll that dice and have 20 on investigation and just have the answer to those. So the Mini Playback is that little view. And that little view it's weird. It doesn't say much. It's a little triangle with 3 squares. It's a bit hard to see on the stream, so I'm just going to draw it. So the toolbar looks like this. It's a triangle and another triangle. And they have like gray dots under it. That's the lovely Mini Playback. So what does that do in life? It's like a playback, but it's smaller. So what it's going to do is I'll be able to take my animation, and here that's the perfect example. Maybe that's why I took it to showcase that feature, because I have, for the most part, a cycle. I mean, the legs cycle, not the head. The head is redrawn every frame because I'm nuts. But the legs are mostly the same, and they cycle over 8 drawing, which is 16 frames, because I'm really great at math. But after that, it breaks out of the cycle and it changes its animation. So I'm going to make it play once so that you actually know what I'm talking about. So that's the thing I'm drawing. So wait, actually, I'm going to make that puddle blue because it's going to be cuter, because I don't want you to think that it's something scary. So it's actually water. It's just that I like to use very vibrant colors when I animate. So what I'm going to show you is that the whole scene is playing like that, but if I only want a certain part to cycle, or I just want to see my animation with certain frames, you can go get the dialog box, which is the first triangle with the 3 dots, and it gives you this thing. And you can decide to have a frame. So let's say like this frame. And then you can choose to have a different frame rate if you need to, but I'm going to keep the same as my scene. But you can choose to have 5 before, 10 before. Like, you can choose the amount of time you want, and then each time you press play, it's going to play like the number of frames before and after. The reason why I say it's useful for cutout as well is because it counts frames, not drawing. Because if it was drawings, then if you use a cutout puppet, that it would work, because most cutout puppet only use one drawing and with lots of deformers. But, you know, the mini playback is something that a lot of people don't know. But, you know, when you're testing something like a movement, and you don't want to always have to go here and click on it and like set your because you have your stop and start and stop frame buttons, right, that you can set for your whole timeline. But then instead of having to play with these little buttons all the time, sometimes you want to see how it looks here. Okay, that's right. And then you want to move there and then do this. I love to use that for cleanup. I love to use it for painting my frames. Because when I paint, when I clean up, I like to do it like bit by bit, especially color. So I can say, like, okay, I'm going to draw all the, like the 21st frame, and then I'm going to make them play, and then I'm going to move over to the other one and make them play. So that's the mini playback, and I hope everybody loves that tool. Yay! So while you people are showing appreciation for that tool, I'm going to go read the chat and see what's going on. Well, that's actually clutch. I don't know what that means, but I hope it's positive. Hey Z, I love your YouTube channel. Hey, thank you. Oh, clutch is good. Okay, great. Sorry, I'm not English native, so sometimes I don't know these words. All right, so we don't have any questions so far, so I'm just going to go ahead with what I planned. So another great thing to use in the software is, where is it? Oh no, I showed it last time, the capture motion, because capture motion is pretty cool, but I've already showed it, so I'm not going to show it again right now. For the other thing, I'm going to go to colors. So I'm going to take my other scene that I had prepared right here. It's the same reindeer thing, and it's super happy walking around with bouncing hair. Let's say that I was coloring that character. I'm going to go to the color. If you are like me, that you sometimes make mistakes between your line art and your color art level, I call them level because there's so many things that are called layers already. So these things are level. By the way, I have my line art and my color art both showing up. But if you want to have more, like I have my overlay and my underlay, don't forget that you can go inside your preferences right here, and you can go to advanced, and you can find support overlay and underlay art. Yay! All that being said, in animation, for those of you who might not be familiar with the concept, in Harmony, you have access to the line art and the color art level. So they're the same level of a layer. So I have here my layer that is this one here. You can see in the little pictures under. It's one layer, but it's divided in multiple levels, all right? And typically we put the line art on the line art, and we put the color on the color level. And then you can do whatever you want with the other levels. I don't know. There's like, sky's the limit. Some people will use them to do like their timing charts. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And which is something we could talk about in a future stream now that I think about it. Timing charts. They're pretty cool. Just saying. You can use them here because the fun thing is that you can then go in your node view and have perhaps your overlay layer not show up in render so that you don't see your timing charts, for example. But that's not where I'm going today. Where I am going today is I'm going to show you some cool tricks for when you do either you're repainting your line art or you're painting your colors. If you want to know how to work with the line art and the color art, I have videos about it. The Toon Boom official portals have videos about it, so I'm not going to waste the time today to talk about that right now. but I'm going to show you some little cool tricks on how to use that. And before that, let's check at the chat. What's been your favorite personal project you've worked on? I'd have to say that one of my favorite personal projects that I worked on used to be a indie game that we tried to make. We didn't ended up making it, but I sure learned a big chunk from it, so that was cool. And aside from that, my YouTube channel is a personal project of mine. I love doing it. I love to do my D&D animation, like with my rig that I have right here. I mean, there's many rigs, but that's one of them. I love to do that. I'm going to talk about that later. And maybe not a personal project, but like contracts that I do. I love the Game Grumps animation that I do every month. This is like the highlight of my month. It's so fun because I can do whatever I want with those, and it's just fun. So on to the feature. When you color, let's say that I'm coloring this one. So I'm going to just remove the colors of this very frame. I'm going to also save as, because if I miss something, I don't want to mess it up too much. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to remove the colors of these. And I love okay, and that's a personal thing. I love in Harmony that you have the line art and the color art, because in comp it makes it a whole lot easier, because you can always just affect the color and not the line art and stuff. But if you're painting in the software, oh, and I like that it looks like animation cells, because you have your colors and your line on different layer. It's just, this is so cool without the line. But yeah, I'm gonna get rid of it. If you want to create your color art from your line art, you just finish your line art. You make sure that your gaps are closed, mostly. And then you click on that little button. It looks something like this. And it's literally called Create Color Art from Line Art, so you cannot miss it. It's there, but it's also in your tool properties of your select tool. It's right there. And then you click there, and then voila, if you press K, you're going to see a vector art. These are transparent strokes. No, these are invisible strokes. I mean, you're never going to see them. They're always size 0. But then when you paint, the fun thing is that you can take your colors. Let's say I need my skin color. There it is. I all named them because I'm a good person. Name your colors. Be a good person. And I'm going to click here to fill my colors. And then that's it. That's great. And then I can take my hair, and I can also paint my hair like that. So it's very easy to just take the colors. If you can't paint them, you can just activate the close gap and everything works fine. So that's easy. But then if you have hard to reach places, you can always get the bucket and go get the paint and unpainted bucket, which is great. But another thing that you can do is you can also keep using the paint tool. And what I want to show you is that you can also lock colors. So you can click on your skin color here, for example. You can right click. And then you can click on protect color. And that what this will do is it will allow you to, oh no, not with this one. It will allow you to take another color. So I'm going to take the tongue color here, for example. And if I do something like this, so I touch the skin and the hair, the skin is not going to get recolored, but everything else will. So sometimes if you're making a mistake and you want to repaint a bunch of stuff, just know that you can protect a color by clicking on it, right-clicking, going to protect color, and it's going to be protected, which means you cannot repaint on it. Then I know that it's not that amazing because, like I said, you can always use the paint on painted and you're going to get the same result. Oops, with the another color, like that. Magic, right? But where this becomes very useful is if you have a show with certain types of character that have lots and lots and lots of details, like a certain show that occurs in the underworld with lots of characters, with lots of stripes and gradients and dots and whatnot that I cannot name, but you all know which one I'm talking about. There was an episode of it last week. If you have this kind of character and there's lots of like details on the hair or whatever, what you can do is lock all the other layers. So I'm going to lock the skin color here, for example, and then I can go take my brush. I can set it to my Stencil Brush, and then I'm going to go get any anything that I want, like this one. And then you have either the repaint or the overlay brush mode. And I'm going to take the overlay brush here, and I'm going to get another color. Let's say that color. And I'm going to go draw some crazy cool shadows on it. And you see, I'm not going to repaint the skin color. Woo. So if you have a very specific style that asks for that kind of things, know that it exists. So if I want to get some cool, I don't know, highlights to this hair, I can do something like that. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And then I have a very cool, unique, I don't have any pressure. Let me fix my tablet. I have a very old Cintiq. It's like, I don't know, 10 years old. So sometimes the pressure doesn't work, but then it comes back and it's all good. And yeah, I'll be able to paint my little character like this, which is great. It's useful for shadows. It's useful for details. How have I not been using that? Well, I don't know. You tell me. Now you know. I like to dig into the software so that other people don't have to. But that's not all, because this is cool, but it's even better because like this would be a... Okay, wait. I'm going way too far now. Too fast. These stripes, the fun thing is that I've drawn them with Harmony 21's new Stencil Brush tool. Am I right? So that's really cool. The Stencil Brush is different from the repaint brush. Because now if you take your normal brush and you go here, you don't have your repaint brush anymore. It's gone. Gasp. Yes, it's gone. So you have to go to your Stencil Brush now. It's a different tool. And in the Stencil Brush, you have two choices. You have the overlay brush or the repaint brush. I know I've said it in a previous stream, but the difference is that if you draw with the repaint brush, what you're doing is you're taking the existing artwork and you're changing the color. So then if you delete it, it's gone. And then you cry because you messed up your whole scene and you have regrets. So instead, what you can do is get the overlay brush and then you do the same thing. But now if I remove my color, by the way, you can remove them with the select tool, or you can remove them with the color, select by color tool, which will get rid of all of them. And you see, I still have the artwork behind it, which is great. Woohoo! So it's great if you have a retake and they say, yeah, you know what? Cut down the highlights. Like it's too much, and you can just edit them. So that's one of the big difference between the overlay and the repaint brush. But that's not all. There's more. The overlay, the repaint brush, which was the old brush that we had, was great, but you couldn't use textured vector with it. So like, you know, if I take my brush and I draw with textures, it's cute. But if I would draw with my repaint brush, I couldn't get those textures. Because, like I said before, the repaint brush was merely replacing the color of the existing vector whatever. So it couldn't work with the textures because it's replacing the colors, right? But if you use the overlay brush, it basically uses anything that you have under as a clipping mask. So you can do like cool shadows like this on it. Not shadows, cool little textures, whatever, on your drawing, which I think is pretty great. So trivia, this tool actually came from Storyboard Pro. It was made because in Storyboard Pro, usually we have to do like dramatic lighting for some scenes. So it was mainly used to do shadows in Storyboard Pro. Now, I don't advise to use it for shadows in Harmony because Harmony is a final production software, right? If you want to do shadows, you do it the right way. You do not the right way. I mean, you do it like you do another drawing and then you cut it on top, right? Because it's lighter and it's easier to composite after, usually. But in Storyboard Pro, usually you won't go and make your drawing super like pretty and final, right? Because you don't care. They're just storyboard drawings. They're there to tell a story. not there to be the prettiest thing ever, which is the opposite. In Harmony, you want your drawings to be as beautiful as possible. So that's why you keep your shadows on a separate layer, but then it allows you to do some crazy cool drawing like these. So I'm going to switch over to my other scene to show you how you could use that feature. Because like I said, for shadows, since they're going to be comped, usually it's better to have them on a different layer, except if you're doing anime style with very, very precise shadows that you have on the clothes. This is different. I'm talking about broad shadows that you see in some Western and more Westernized animation. So I have my beautiful layer here. I'm going to get my color art back because I closed it at the beginning of the presentation. Don't remember why, but I did. So I'm going to go to my layer properties, bring back my color art. And yeah, there we go. Bring back my color art. There you go. So one way you could do this is if you have this beautiful reindeer. Is it a reindeer? There's a horn. I don't know. But if I wanted the paws to have a certain detail on them, what I could do is I could use the overlay brush to give them some fluff or something. So that's what I'm going to do. And after that, I'm going to read the chat. So don't think I forgot you, chat. And yeah. Oh, there's so many people that I didn't see. The chat was frozen for me. So hello, Porky. Hello, Sudoodle. Hello, Carlorts. Hello, Digio. Hello, Renee. Hello, Z Fingers. I think that's oh, hello, Yoleaf Bug. That's cool. I love that name. Did you know that my favorite bug is the stick bug? Because I think it looks cool. And yeah, so sorry, I got sidetracked. That's what my brain does often. Right, so I'm gonna go get a new color. Maybe something like this. Yeah, that works. And now I'm gonna use the overlay brush or overlay stencil brush to draw some art on that reindeer thing. And I'm gonna use a texture. Yeah, that works. Oh, it also works on the line art, by the way. But I'm going to use in my color art. And you see here, I have a very specific shape because I have the legs and I have the hoofs. So if I don't want to paint the hoofs, but I want to paint the legs, this is another reason why it's great to have the line art and the color art separated like that, because I have only my color and my lines are separated. So if I want to keep the line art blue, but I want to have the cuffs here be a different color, then I can do that. But then I don't want to get the hoofs. So what you can do is just go get the color of the hoofs and right click and protect it. I didn't name this one. Oh no, I'm a bad person. No. Do what I say, not what I do. Protect the color. And then I'm going to get that new color that I made right here. I'm also going to save a version of this because I don't want to mess it up too much. There you go. So now I'll be able to get my brush and then I can draw this. And the hoofs is protected. We've done it. Yes, color art. We have to name the colors. It's important. It's important. There you go. So I have my new colors for my little leggies here. And I'm going to get my overlay brush. And there you go. You can just give them a little more love like this. I think it looks great. But oh no, I'm catching the back legs. What am I going to do, people? You can just get the color and protect it. Ta-da! And then you can just paint it like that. And it looks so cute. Oh my God, that's why I love Harmony, because you can move, you can use both the technology of vector layers and bitmap layers, because the texture that I'm applying to this paw is bitmap. well, textured bitmaps, textured vector bitmaps. So it's like I can still move it like a vector. Oops, I didn't take the right one. I can still move it around like a vector, but it's a bitmap textured vector. But what I mean is that you have like the cool texture look of a bitmap, but you put it on a very clean vector shape. And I think like that's one of my favorite things ever. So I really love that feature. But then if I go here, I'm going to have it showing on top of my line art. But what if I also want to repaint my line art? Well, you just do it. You just repaint your line art and that's it. And it works. And it's great. And yeah, though for the line art, I'd rather use the repaint brush mode because it usually has better result if you have a textured line like I did. The reason why I'm going to show you, so on the left side here, I have the repaint brush. So it's very, very sharp. It's because it's recoloring the whole texture. However, if you use the overlay brush on a line art, you're going to have a little anti-aliasing thingy like this. And that's because you're having your texture be on top of another texture. And since both of them have transparency, they're going to transparent into each other and it's going to look bad. So for colors, use the overlay. For line art, use the repaint. Because anyway, you will rarely want to take the line and just tear it off. Or maybe you want to do that. I don't know. I mean, sky's the limit. If you want to take the face of your reindeer and turn it into a ghost or something, you can that's an option. I mean, you can take that and just like extract. I'm pretty sure there's something to do with this. I think that's cool. But usually that's not what we need. But that's just my brain going haywire as it usually does. So yeah, so for line art, use the repaint brush. For colors, use the overlay brush. Trust me, nobody wants to do that. Well, I did, and I'm somebody, so that counts. Yeah, so where was I going with that? I totally forgot. I was painting stuff. Yeah, so that's it. Like you can use your protect colors, and it's great. And same thing if I want to get the hair, then I would just protect the color of my skin here. Boop, protect color, and we'll get this maybe like a different blue for the hair and give it some texture. So that's how you can effortlessly give a little more, give a little more uniqueness to your animation. So yeah. I mean, for those of you who know me, you do know that I love effortless thing that makes my animation look prettier. And that's one of them. So now you know my secrets. I love to do that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's it for this part. Does anyone have questions in the chat? I'm gonna look at the chat. Look at the chat. Look at the chat. No, don't accuse me of crimes. I just didn't name my colors for 3 colors. No. Oh my god, I need to start doing this. Yes, you do. It's great. I mean, it's great for hand-drawn. It's maybe not something you would do for rigs, but yeah, it's fun. I like it. That's the thing I forgot. By the way, you can use this so much for effects. I love to use that for effects. I'm gonna get my regular brush. I'm gonna draw like a fire thingy. Yay, my pressure is back. I just had to turn back my tablet 3 times and now it works. So let's say that this is my beautiful effect. I'm gonna give it a bit of a more, yeah, like that. Just so you know, you can also use this on your effects. I like to use it on the overlay brush because then, just so you know, if you use that for effects in compositing, sometimes they will prefer to have your whole shape behind, and you can just use your overlay brush to put some other colors on top. And then when you try to composite it, you'll be able to still have the things under. So it's great. Yay! All right. What is the question? Anyone know the best place to get some practice rigs? I have a Gumroad with lots of rigs, and there's some rigs on the Toon Boom Learn portal as well. I can link it after if you want. Yay! And watch out for December. I usually give lots of rig on my YouTube channel. You should come hang out. I'd say for rigs, just be careful and always try to take try to be careful with the rigs that you use, because they need to be like, just make sure that you're actually allowed to use them. And always verify to where you take them so that they're not too heavy and stuff. But yeah, there's many places to find rigs. Okay, which do you prefer, rigs or frame by frame? It depends. It depends on the length of the project. If I'm gonna do a quick thing, because these animations that I make are usually like 8 seconds or 10 seconds long, so doing hand drawn for a short clip is faster because I don't need to rig them, and I can just design them, and I can have a lot of freedom into my creative looks. But with rigging, you have a bit more constraints on how you design the characters if you want to make them animatable. They take a lot of time to rig. Like a rig like my D&D guy here, that is minimum 2 weeks to rig only one character, and that's because I know what I'm doing. So if you started from scratch, it's going to take you 3 years. But if you're going to reuse that rig a lot, like, so if you, instead of making a 10 seconds animation new each week, you wanted to use the same characters all the time, then it's way better to rig them because you can reuse them, which is why I rigged my D&D characters. There's this one, and there's like a few others that I'm rigging, because we are not changing their designs every time, and we want to be able to tell our stories quick, because retakes are much easier to do on rigs, and with the rigging you don't have to clean up because the rig is there, so you pose it on top. So it really depends. Like, I like both. It just depends for what. How do you keep yourself from getting overly ambitious on a small project? That's called experience. And maybe the other people in the chat that are also experienced will agree. It's experience. Like, I don't have anything else to say because I'm experienced. And when I tell students that they're too overly ambitious, they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't listen to my craft. I want to do whatever I want. And then they do something too ambitious and they cry. So even if somebody experienced tries to tell you how not to be overly ambitious, chances are that you will still do it. So like, I think for that part, the only way to learn it is by failing yourself and learning it the hard way. I'm sorry. That's what I've been observing for like years of teaching to people. Yeah, I think we've all been there, done that. I've been there and done that years ago. I've learned my lessons. True words. What is that gif? Is it? It looks like Snake from Metal Gear Solid, but I might be wrong. Once you get burned, you learn. I have to remind myself to keep it simple. Ah, that works. It is Snake. Oh, I knew it. I knew it. That's nice. Okay, so where was I going with this? I was going to talk about rigging, but I forgot. And I forgot to make a post-it note to know what I was going to say. Ask me something about rigging and I'll answer it. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk more. So, yeah, I think that's it for the hand drawn. I wanted to talk about the mini playback and the protect colors. Yeah, that works. On to rigging. So that's the same character I always use. And one thing I wanted to say is that sometimes when you get rigs from the internet, one thing you have to be careful is look at when they were made and if they're updated. because I see a lot of people struggling with rigs, but these rigs were made for like Harmony 12. Okay, it's 2021 today. Like Harmony 12 has been there for like 10 and more years. And rigging is like science. It evolves. It gets better each version. So if your rig is too old, first it might not work in Harmony 21, and it's gonna be full of not specifically, it could be full of not specifically great or optimized things. Yeah, so I'm gonna just walk you through this rig and try to answer questions as I go. So when I rig, one thing that is super important is try to keep it light. And one way to keeping it light is to have how do we call these handles. Like the handles, I usually do them on one or few solid colors. So like I usually have handles for my body, and then I have handles for the face. And that's because when you animate the body, sometimes you don't want to see all the annoying icons of the face. So that's why in all my palettes that have names, I named all of those because I'm a good person. I always have my color for my handles of the body. So I'm going to put them yellow so that we see them. And then I have the handles for the mouth, for example, that I'm going to put into bright green. So we see them like this. So that means that when I'm animating, I'll be able to click on the handles if I need to have them. But if I don't want to see them, I can just hide them by hiding the swatch, and then I don't see them. So I can see my animation. See you, Z finger. And same thing for the mouth. Like I don't want to see all these dots all the time, because if you're not doing lip sync, then you don't need to select the mouth. I'm just going to hide them and show the body instead. And I usually keep them white because I don't want them to be disturbing in colors. Like that, with a little transparency on them. All right, so we have a question. Do we have time to go into inverse kinematics? Oh, where is it always about inverse kinematics? I never use them ever for limbs. Some shows, like if you do animation that is a bit more fast-paced, like if you do a preschool animation, usually where characters are more into the same view, like they don't do any 360 backflips rolling on the floor. Like if it's more easy animation, inverse kinematics are great because they're going to do lots of work for you. So by inverse kinematics, I'm talking about the constraints that Harmony has, because that's a good thing to learn. They're not called inverse kinematics. Usually in Harmony, they're going to be called constraints, and they're great for shows. Like if you look at a show like Ever After High or Monster High, I don't remember, but it was a show about these characters that had lots and lots and lots and lots of details. But the characters, they would stay always in the same angle most of the time. So it was easy, right? So constraints or inverse kinematics are great for rigs that are mostly static. Not static, I'm losing my English today. That they use the same view. So I've seen this rig online with inverse kinematics. Actually, it was a black cat. I need to find it again. It was a really cool rig. And it's great because it was a profile cat just to practice the jump of a cat, which was great. But usually for anything that is a bit more precise, anything that is a bit more precise, usually you would be better off with pegs and formers and all that. But I'm still going to show you some cool ways that you can use constraints, or inverse kinematics, as we call them. First, in my rigs, the only place that I put them are on the feet. So like if I make the leg go up like this, I usually want the feet to follow the legs, right? But sometimes if my feet needs to stay here, like maybe he's going to crouch down on the floor, or I want the feet to stay there, what I can do is go on my feet, I'm going to go in my node view, find my feet. And there is this thing that is called a lockdown. It's actually a transformation limit. And all I have to do is activate it. And Toon Boom has a tutorial on how to do that. That's where I learned it. So you can just go check that out. And if I go here and instead of having a value of 0, I have a value of 100, then it's going to have my... Oh, wait, I took the wrong foot, I think. Let me see. Oh, yeah, I took the wrong foot. There we go. So now if I put my active gate to 100, it's going to be not listening to my rig anymore. So if I move my rig, my foot is going to... Oops, my... If I move my leg, sorry, I have like 6 Harmony scenes open at the same time, and I'm streaming, so my computer is a bit struggling. But then I'll be able to move my leg, but not my foot. So these are called transformation limits. They're great on feet to do that exact same thing, and that is the only constraint that I put in my rigs, usually, for limbs, I mean. So because 2D is not like 3D, like having inverse kinematics in 2D usually works less great for many reasons, because we don't actually have a 3D puppet, right? So you cannot say I'm gonna like nail that foot to the floor or something. Because I've done years of 3D animation. I was a 3D animator for like what, 4 years, I think. I don't remember, before switching back to 2D. So I know what you mean. I know that IKFK is great, but for cutout rigs that are advanced, it's less great. However, they are amazing for lots of things. So let me show you that with a new scene. Oh, and I love to use the constraints to do swatch and stretch on my rigs as well. That's also cool. I'm going to show you some cool examples of what you can do with constraints. So let's say that I have a beach ball. Can you please work, computer? There we go. So let's say that I have a little... Actually, I'm going to have a tennis ball because it's quicker to draw. Look at that perfect circle. I'm going to fill it with paint, make it a bit fluorescent like this. And I'm going to protect my black color, and then I'm going to repaint this over. There we go. Beautiful tennis ball. Am I right? Then what you can do with constraints that is really great is first you go get it. So you write constraints, and you can find 2 points, multiple points, or 3-point constraints, and they're great. I'm going to get my 2 points because it's the easiest one to learn. And basically, constraints, what they are, like we have to stop thinking they're this crazy, hard to use thing. It's not. It's you have a shape, and then you have a constraint on top. And instead of having 1 peg, then you can have 2 pegs controlling it. So you have peg 1 and peg 2. Amazing. Then you connect them here. Left, right peg, left peg. Amazing. And then you take this peg, and then you just go and you put the pivot point somewhere. I'm going to put it here for the first one. And then here, this is going to be the bottom one. You know how I always say keep your pegs aligned? Well, for constraints, usually this is where I cheat a little bit. So since this is the top one, I'm going to put it higher than the other one, just so that I remember which one is the top one. If I had like 4 pegs, I would kind of try to put them into how they're arranged on my shape. But that's just me. Like this. And then it's great because then if you move 1 peg, the other one will stay put. So you can do this. So that is why I love constraints. Like I love them. I just don't like them for limbs. They're so hard to animate with if you use them for limbs. That's not usually amazing, unless if you have, like I said, a very static show in terms of posing. So if your characters are always like in the same view, so that if they have like crazy dresses with lots of like designs and crazy hair, like it's great to use constraints for those. It's really great. But usually for a bit more like fluid animation in the terms that like your character needs to do 360s and backflips and jump around, pegs and deformers are going to take you a bit further easy than constraints. However, like I said, I don't hate constraints. I like them just for specific things. So like if I have something that I need, like a bouncing ball that I need to make bounce, it's so great to just be able to like animate it like this and then whoosh, and animate it like bounce around like that. It's really, really fun. I love to be able to do that. I love it for hair. So if instead of a bow like that, I had the hair of a character, I could then have the back hair, for example, in my rig. Like I could put it on individual pieces. I love constraints for individual pieces. Where I think they're a bit harder to master, especially for animators, is on limbs. I don't have any rigs on me that has constraint on the legs and stuff, so I cannot really show you what I mean. But where it gets hard is that you cannot really rotate it anymore, because if you take the peg and you rotate like an animator thinks it should, it doesn't work. So that's why in limbs it gets really hard for your animators to use. So then again, just so that people don't twist my words, I don't hate constraints. I'm just not a fan of them in limbs, because they're a very unique way to animate. And usually when you're a cutout animator, you learn how to use deformers and pegs. So that when you switch to production that would be using only constraints, it's a whole new things to learn, right? So it's not that easy. Unless, like I said, you work with a style that is really thought out for the constraints, which would be a great example. If you want to look it up, like I think it's called Ever After High, the show, they use designs that are very prone to use constraints. I don't know if that's what they use, but it would look like a good candidate to use a lot of constraints on them. We still have time for some questions. How do you first tackle understanding in your rig you get? Oh, that's a great question. I think that's like a question I say a lot in every stream, but it never gets old. So I'm going to talk to you about that in a second. Oh my God, my old teacher from school. Oh my God, that's so cool. Hello, PG250. Oh, but like I say, also if you work, oh yeah, I forgot. If you work in silhouettes, like you have, there's so many shows that are so great. They kind of imitate the old way that you would do cartoon when you would do like take paper and you would cut shapes into it, like silhouette animation. Constraints for silhouette animation is so great because, like I said, you always keep them in the same view. You don't need to move them around and rotate them 360. So for silhouette animation, it is so fun. I don't have it on me, but I have some example that I did in the past of like a dragon, like a kind of like a Chinese lantern dragon. It was super cool. I wish I could find it again. Yeah, hair for constraint is fun. And oh, so Sneaky D says, do you find that it's easy to add a new drawing to a rig if needed, like redrawing hands? Of course it is. I'm going to show you how right now. Yay! So I'm going to finish the day today with two little things. I'm going to show you how to navigate a new rig, and I'm going to show you how to make new drawings in a rig. Which it's funny because it's really something I show up almost every stream that I do for rigging. But I'm always happy to teach about that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go get back my rig. Come back, elf dude. And it's really, really easy to draw it. If you're used to Flash, I was a Flash animator before I went into Harmony. And yeah, I wouldn't go back. There we go. Okay, so this is my rig. So usually when you animate something in Harmony, for limbs, usually we don't really redraw because it's so much quicker to just be able to move the deformers. So like all of these were created using only one drawing each for each limb, aside from the hands. So it's very flexible what you can do. So instead of constantly redrawing everything, I can just move the points. So like for the pants, all I did is move the deformer points, right? But for hands, you don't move deformer points for hands because it doesn't work. So for a new hand, all you would have to do is, okay, bear with me. It's really hard, okay? Be careful, you click on the hand, okay. You go to your timeline, you press on the button that is literally called Create Empty Drawing, and then you draw a new hand. Oh, not with a red paint, with a black paint. There we go. I'm gonna give it a little cat paw. And that's my new hand. So where did that hand go? It's into the drawing substitution view. So here you have all the hands that are available to you if you want to use them. And all the one you made are there. And the fun thing is, because since I'm using Harmony and it's a rig that I made and stuff, what I always do is I make all the limbs and the hands and stuff clones of each other. Well, it's not clones. It's when you right click and you select, you go like to edit, and there's an option that is called clones drawings only. So it clones the drawing, but not the timing. So they're not linked together. Like the artwork is linked together, but not the timing in the timeline. So that it's there. So if I go to the hand, I don't need to redraw it into this symbol. Well, they're layers, but in Flash we would call them symbols. It's there. Same thing with the arm. If I want to change the arm drawing, it's going to be changed on both sides at the same time. Which also means that if I take my hand layers here and I make them go up like this, and I change it like this, and I change the hand. Now, I don't know if it's going to work because it's still a work in progress rig, but I can do this like this. I can then go up my hierarchy, find my arm peg, then I go to the other arm. I go up the same hierarchy. And yeah, I go here. It's arm full peg. I collapse it. I take my keyframe. I copy it. I can go to the other arm. I can find it in my timeline and I can paste it. And yeah, you see, so my animation also pastes to the other side. I just pasted it one step too low, but that's what you can do with these. And yeah, that's how easy it is. I'm just going to repeat in case it was missed or something. To create a new drawing in your hands or whatever, all you have to do is click on the hand. Then you go to create a new empty drawing and you just draw whatever you want. And even better, if you want to draw this hand, but slightly different, you can click on the other button that is called duplicate selected drawing. And then you're going to have a copy of this one. And you can just change, I don't know, like how the thumb or the little pinky finger is. You can just select those. I'm going to make sure I have my apply to line art and color art active. And you can just do this. And you can move it. And then it's going to be your new drawing. So does that answer your question, Sneaky? Yes, it does. Okay. I have one last thing to say. I know we're going a bit over time, but no, we're not, actually. I still have 3 minutes. Yay. Oh, yes, you doodle. Yes, exactly like Michael Ocelot does. Yeah. Appreciating all the tooltips. I'm learning a lot. Thank you. Clones handy. Well, it's not clones. It's clones drawings only, which is a different. Well, everyone's still here. We just have to think of one. Oh, yeah, that's Toon Boom. Okay, so the last thing I want to show is the question that somebody asked. I forgot who. I think it was CalArts. When you get a new rig, what do you do? So I always have my 3 rules or something. When I get a new rig, because sometimes a studio will be nice and have the time to explain it to you, but sometimes even if they're nice, we're so busy that we don't have time to explain all the rigs to people. If you get a new rig, how to explore it? What you do? First, you check the extremities of the limbs. So you get the hands, and then you check the hierarchy by clicking on the hands and going up with the B key. You go up, 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 and this will usually tell you how it's rigged. And the fun thing is that if you go up, you always get the pivot point. But if you go up and you don't see the pivot point, this indicates that you have a grouped limb. And a grouped limb is great because it means that you will be able to paste the animation from one arm to the other, like I did before. So that's why you don't see the peg. And then when you go up again, you have the peg. But usually if you have grouped limbs, they're going to have a peg on top. I usually name mine "Do Not Touch Me" because they're not supposed to be animated. They're more there to make the master controller. If you want to make your puppet move around, like when I make it rotate, instead of redrawing everything, I would just I hope it's still working. It's still a work in progress rig, right? So I'm not sure if my master controllers are still working. Are they working? Yes, they are. Okay. So like usually the "Do Not Touch Me" pegs are there just to have your limbs placed somewhere, but then in animation you don't always move them. It depends on the studio. Or sometimes you're gonna do only translation with those, but rotations with the pegs inside, so depends. But yeah, so the way to explore that is you go to the extremities and then you go up with the B key. And then you know how it's rigged. Also like how you go from like the head to the middle of the mouth to the rest of the head. So I just zoom on my head, click on the mouth, and then you go up, up, up. So then I see that my animation, my mouth is actually a deformer mouth. Because if I click on it and I activate the deformers, I see that I have deformers. So usually mouth will be done drawing per drawing. Usually most of the shows don't use deformer mouth because they're a bit longer to rig. Or sometimes the main characters will have deformer mouth, but like the incidentals will not. It really depends on the show. I made a deformer mouth for this puppet because I wanted to test how to make it years ago, and I wanted to have very precise lip sync. But usually drawings will take you way far and it's already good. You don't have to get a deformer mouth. But come on, like it is fun to use. To just draw some silly faces. Like who doesn't want to animate who doesn't want to animate something like that? What is this? So that's my mouth. So yeah, check the extremities, go up in hierarchy. Next, you want to see if you have a deformer rig or a drawing-based rig. So deformer rigs means that most of the piece will be only one drawing. So to see that, you go to the drawing substitution. You click on the pieces, and you're going to see that it's most of the time it's only one drawing per piece. And so it's always one drawing per piece. But then if you move the deformers on these pieces, you get a lot of freedom for what you want to do with those. Yeah, so that's very important to know. And I want to end with that note. One thing that I am super, that I hear a lot and that I don't agree with is if you have a design and like maybe like you have a design and the budget is not there to do it hand-drawn, like don't think that if you go rig is going to be cheaper, because it's not exactly the case. It's not because it's rigged that it's cheaper, but it depends on what. If your animation style, you go for very strong poses, but that you can use the most of these poses, then this is where rigs is really going to shine. Because if you have a little animation to do like with this kind of character, if you have this kind of animation, so the pose is going to be kept a lot, but you just want to move like things a little bit, but while keeping that pose really strong, this is where rigs is going to be super winner, because you can reuse the most if you can of your pose. So rigs is really great if you can do pose to pose animation. If you're going for something more like traditional animes, for example, with lots of details in the hair, lots of details in the shading, especially the shading, this is where hand-drawn could be the better way. So both that comes back also to the question I had before. I love both techniques. It just depends for what. So when you go for a rig, just remember that everything will need to move and be its own layers. If you have many details, just be careful and try to optimize. But yeah, so when you receive a rig, always check for the extremities. always check to see if it's a deformer or a drawing-based rig. Both of them are amazing. They're just amazing for different kind of animation. For example, a deformer rig can take 2 to 3 weeks to rig. A drawing-based rig will be rigged much faster. But when it comes to animation, a deformer rig might be faster to animate than a drawing-based rig. So it really depends on the strength of your team, on the style of your show. And if you want to get into rigging, go get a class, go get the Learn portal and get to learn it. The best way to learn about rigging is to do it. So start small. That's my last advice for today. Do not start. It's like game design. You don't start with the game of your dream. And for rigs, it's the same. You don't start with your dream rig. You start small. Before I rigged this guy, I rigged so many designs that looked like little birds without hands or feet. And I would just learn how to connect pegs. I would try to experiment with them. And if you want to be good at rigging, try animating these rigs, because a lot of the time people will get into rigging and they're going to rig these crazy, fantastic things that looks great. But then when you try to make them move, it's really hard. So if you want to get into rigging, try animating a little bit, rig many different small rigs and pieces like arms and eyes, and listen to animators' feedback. This is gold. Like all my rigs, I'm blessed to have talented cutout animator friends that I can just throw them at and be like, can you critique that please and tell me if it's fun to use or not? Because ultimately a rigger's job is to make animation great and flowing and fun to do. So yeah, I think these are my tips for today. Oh yeah, one last thing. You can always take your character, highlight it like that, and show up all the deformers to see if it's a deformer rig or a drawing-based rig. And don't be scared, because when you look at it from far away, there's lots of deformers and it looks scary, but it's only because of the offset points, because these are big and weird. But like for deformers, it looks intimidating, and it's easy because I've seen it online. People are going to take rigs and show up the deformers and be like, this is not optimized. This is a bad rig. It's not. This is just getting normal to have envelopes and everything. And it's just that you don't activate all of the deformers at the same time. You do it piece by piece. So if I want to have some wind blowing in that shirt, I'm going to animate just that piece at one point. Like that. So you do it piece by piece. It's just that instead of redrawing constantly, you can just move the deformers. So it's not, if it's well done and well thought out, it will not always be heavier than a drawing-based rig, because if it's a drawing-based rig and you need to have lots of precision, you will need lots of drawings. So if you need lots of precision, then you might be better off with a deformer rig. But I know that some weeks ago, there was these amazing guys, I forgot their names, but they did the rig with the bunny character. This was a drawing-based rig, and it's an amazing rig. I've tried it. It's so great. It's so cool. If you want to look back in their videos, it's on our YouTube, and I think it's still on our Discord, and they were amazing. And that was a drawing-based rig. So I love hand-drawn animation. I love rigged animation. I love deformer rigs. I love hand-drawn. I love drawing-based rig. They're all great, but they all serve different purpose. And that is, I think, the takeaway for today. Like, all these techniques are great. Just make sure that you have the right one for your show. And if I don't have any more quick questions to answer, that'll be it. It was a pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And if you want to continue the fun, you can go on our Discord, or you can also find me on YouTube, ZeBirdBrain. Oh, yeah, Toon Boom, thank you for sharing my link. And I'll be there in a couple of minutes. I just need to eat supper, and I'll be back streaming some more on this platform. And yeah, have a nice, wonderful, lovely day, and I'll see you there. Maybe in like half an hour. Yeah, half an hour should be great. I'm going to come back and do some more reindeer animation. So bye-bye.